Dharma protects those who protect it. And it's this idea that if you live a life of love, life will always make sure that everything's taken care of for you. And this is something that, I've really tried to live by. For example, I came to the United States and I didn't really know what to do. And so I was looking around and I realized it was the middle of COVID and there's a lot of homeless people that didn't have food, didn't have much. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to make chai. I'm going to make chai. I'm going to take it. I'm going to serve the people. And it was like super cold winter time. So I go to this part of New York City. It's not so good. And I start serving people chai. And all of a sudden, as I'm doing this guy comes and he's like, what are you doing here? I said, I'm just serving. He's like, get out. You're causing too much disturbance here for me. He was a drug dealer. And so he showed his gun and he said, get out. And so I was like, okay. So I leave. Next week, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back. So I go back, new fresh pot of chai. And rather than go to the homeless people, I go to him, I say, hey, it's cold. You want some chai? He's like, what is chai? And I'm like, it's like Indian tea. He's like, all right, give me some. So I gave him some chai and he drinks some. Hey, this is pretty good. And then he looks and he's like, who are you? What are you doing here? I'm like, I'm just a monk. I'm just trying to help some people. And he's like, you know what? From now on, you can do whatever you want here. I got your back. And so it goes from him threatening my life to essentially saying, serve and I'll protect you. And so that for me is the essence of Dharma protects those who protect it. Life will always find a way to help us to do what we need to, if we do it from love.
It's beautiful. I love that. That's wild, man.
Yeah. Crazy stories in New York.
Yeah. So for people that aren't familiar with Dharma and the way that it's used in these ancient scriptures and how it reflects to how we live in modern life now, what is Dharma, if you have to distill it down?
So the word Dharma is very complicated because it has so many different, let's say, translations depending on context. So there isn't really one way to look at Dharma. Even when you speak about Dharma from a Buddhist lens or a lens of Hinduism, so many different ways. So I'll give you one interpretation of one way that we can contextualize it. And for me, Dharma is whatever we're doing that is being done without this coming from the ego. So when we do our Dharma, we're living in the present moment and we're acting from a space of love rather than a space of attachment. So when we do that, what happens is that we don't entangle ourselves with this reality. Because when you do something and you are from the ego, you entangle, right? You find ways where you go into fear or emotions and you don't do it properly. That's not Dharma. Dharma is, I have something I have to do. I do it from love. And if I do it, it will help a lot of people. So I'll give you an example. Let's take like Justin Bieber, right? His duty is to be a singer. Now, if he does it from a space of the ego, he can create a bunch of entanglement and karma, right? He could maybe inspire people to go get drunk or do drugs. Oh, Justin Bieber's doing it, so I'm going to do it. Entanglement, right? But if he shifts it and say, you know what, I'm going to embrace this duty and turn it into my dharma, then he starts doing it and saying, hey, maybe do some meditation. Hey, go and do this. I don't know if you would say that, but go and do this where it'll help you with your relationship with yourself. Now you're unentangling. Now you're giving love to this world. So that's how I would define Dharma. Anything that we do from the space of the heart.
So action that's coming from a place internally that isn't just preoccupied with self-personal gain. And it feels like it evolves with us as, our Dharma 10 years ago looked different in how, I think a lot of people think, oh, somebody has a lot of success or has a huge podcast or is really impacting a lot of people, they're really in their Dharma. Whereas somebody who maybe was in a position they were 10 years ago, which was studying spiritual scriptures, just meditating in the room 30 minutes a day, just connecting, networking, meeting people, expanding, they're like also in their Dharma at a different stage of development in their own process and journey. So any thoughts you have on how Dharma evolves as we evolve, and it's again that quality of what we're doing, not necessarily the scale of it.
Yes. So there's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says, Krishna says, it's better to do one's Dharma imperfectly than to do the Dharma of another perfectly. Because the Dharma of another is filled with danger. So what he's saying here is that life has put you where you need to be. And Dharma means be in the present moment. Whatever life gives you, try your best to do it. Even if it's not the best, even if externally you're not so great at it, that's where you're at, right? And so try it to do it with love. And then through time, it will evolve. But if I sit here and I say, you know what? I can do what André does so much better. I can do it much better than he can. And I'm thinking about you rather than accepting my Dharma as a Swami, then two things happen. One is I'm not in the present moment. I don't learn to understand what I need to do, and I'm not able to grow, right? And so many people do that. They look at others and say, I should be doing what they're doing. But in reality, if it's meant to be, it will be. Focus on your life now. Try your best to do your Dharma now, and then life will show you and open up so many doors for you. Right? But if you don't embrace it now, you'll never be ready for your other Dharma when it comes into your life.
I think at this time where comparison is so heavy throughout society, it's easy to see somebody at the top of their mountain and be like, I'm going to start climbing that mountain. Or even at times on the other side, being paralyzed because of how far in the journey they are ahead of you comparatively. Whereas you're inviting the reflection to, no, just, you don't know what your mountain's going to look like, but there is a path where you can take one step in a direction. And I've always loved that analogy of like a car driving from Los Angeles to New York at the nighttime. You can't see the full distance. You can see where the headlights illuminate, which is like 100 or 200 feet ahead of you. And then as you get further, you see further.
Yeah, and you never know what your potential is, right? Because the mind, unfortunately, limits your greatness, right? The greatness our greatness does not come in the ego. Our greatness comes when we are attuned to the will of the divine. Things that you can never imagine will open up for you if you have that acceptance and that consistency of moving forward. Things that you were like, you couldn't even dream of 10 years ago, right? And so I tell people, if you want to be successful, there's 3 things that I would recommend. And these are kind of paradoxical to how the world teaches it. So if you want to be successful, the first thing I'd share is be happy when others succeed. Because when you're happy, what are you telling the universe? I'm happy for them, and I'm also open to receiving the same. But if I'm not happy for them, internally I'm saying, I don't want that. Universe, whatever they have, don't give me because I'm not happy for them, right? So try to be happy when others succeed. The second is accept and enjoy what you're doing now. Right, so that is really important. It's this idea of don't think about the future, don't think about what's coming. Learn from where your life has put you now. Learn to love it, and then other things will open. So accept and enjoy where you're at. And the third is help others to succeed. And this is the most difficult thing for people. Because when we're in the ego, we have a lack of scarcity. If they succeed, that means I'm going to fail, right? So immediately I put my mind in that lack of scarcity, and I'm not open to the abundance of what the divine can do for me. And so when you help others to succeed, you are literally tapping into that eternal abundance, allowing you to, whatever you help somebody with, you get 10 times back. And that's why I always found that's why I felt a strong connection with you, because from the day that I met you, the question you always ask is, hey, how can this help you? How can this reach more people? How can I help you to reach more people? And that feeling of how can I help others succeed, that's the secret sauce of being successful ourselves.